Hi mamas, April here. So this episode is about the 3 main reasons why I became vegan. I basically became vegan back in 2010 when I met my husband, and he had been vegan for 30 years. And so it was kind of just like a natural transition into being vegan. We went on dates to restaurants and had vegan food, and I tried all this amazing food, and he opened my eyes to so many things about veganism that I didn't realize, kind of the ethical side. And at first I was like, oh yeah, whatever, ethical. I was just kind of into being thinner and having clearer skin and all that. And, having shiny hair. But, and that all came, but once all that came to me, it was like, okay, there's got to be, as he was opening my eyes to the ethical things, it became clear that I needed to get more into that realm of thought and become more conscious of in those things. Some of the documentaries that I watched were Earthlings, Cowspiracy, Vegucated, and Forks Over Knives. And those were really great documentaries that really opened my eyes to the real problems that are going on with meat production. Some of the books I read were like Skinny Bitch, The Kind Life by Alicia Silverstone, and No Happy Cows, Diet for a New America. These were all books that kind of got me more into the ethical end of having a plant-based life. And so I kind of digress there, but what I want to point on is the main reasons that once I became more ethical, why I stuck to being vegan. And number one, it was my health. I didn't want to get older and go into my late 40s or my early 40s, my late 40s and 50s, having to worry about hypertension, diabetes, different types of cancers, heart disease, all the things that can happen by eating an animal product diet predominantly, or just totally eating an animal product diet that can happen to you and your health over time. You can kind of get away with it when you're young and just eat whatever you want, but over time it can really take a toll on your body, and you'll start seeing it, especially in your 30s and beyond. Number two, it was for the animals. Animals are sentient beings. They have feelings. These are all the things I started discovering as I was watching the documentaries. I already knew that animals had feelings and stuff. I wasn't like this total non-animal person, but I realized that, animals, they were families. Animals don't want to be ripped away from their baby cows, and, so their cows can go off to slaughter, and the moms have to leave them. Animals want to be treated with respect, just like we're treated with, just how we're treated or want to be treated. So that was a huge part of it. And I loved animals. I just never really looked, for some reason, I didn't look at cows and pigs the same way I looked at dogs and cats. And I think that's a lot of people. I think people just don't, for whatever reason, they just don't they don't make the connection that these animals are just the same as your dog or your cat in a lot of ways. They have feelings, they want to be treated with respect, they want to be loved. So that was something that really opened up my eyes, and my husband really helped open up my eyes to how crazy that is and how insane it is that we don't see them as the same, as we don't see them as living things, or living beings rather. We see them as these things that we can consume and abuse and hurt. Even if we're not doing the abuse directly, we're doing it by eating meat, by engaging in this, and by having animal products in our diet. It's really sad that people can't really see that. But hopefully, I have this kind of idyllic thing that maybe someday everyone will become vegan and they'll embrace the vegan lifestyle, and it'll just kind of be a natural transition that we all evolve to that. But I don't know if that's really going to happen. I think that the veganism is a very small community, and it's slowly growing, but I think it'll always be among the people that can really live that lifestyle fully. So So that was number two. The third reason was for the ecology of the earth. There's just so many things that are going on now on the planet that are just basically destroying our home, destroying where we live. And it's really scary to think about, rainforests being ripped down at the clip that they're being ripped down. And I don't have the exact statistics, but It's really, really a lot, to make a long story short. Also, just like, you know, all the animals that are being killed for consumption daily or even by the second is just like destroying the planet from the CO2s that are emitted from basically their waste into the atmosphere. And a lot of people think, they still blame it on cars and they blame it on all these other things, but it's so much more than that. That might contribute to the pollution and the basically you know, all the stuff that's wrong with our planet right now, but it's definitely predominantly the animals being produced for consumption. And you can find all this out more in detail on some of the documentaries that I mentioned earlier in the video. So these are the reasons, and I just think it's so sad that, you know, people aren't kind of waking up to it yet. I mean, they are in a way, but I think still, like, with celebrities and people that are out there, I think they're the ones that are doing it are kind of doing it like because it's a trend or it's a fad. And I say, hey, you know, if that's how you have to do it, I can't judge, because I got into being vegan because I wanted to look better and I wanted to feel better, and it was all kind of like self-driven. So I'm not going to judge people on that, and, you know, whatever, as long as they're getting the message out in a way where, you know, they're kind of touching on these things. At least that's a start, you know. I mean, not everyone can be like, I wouldn't even consider myself an activist. Like, I'm not, you know, going and marching down the street with signs and stuff like that, or going to all these different meetings or events or things like that to, you know, fight for animal rights. But just by me being vegan and by me spreading the message through my vlogs, and, you know, it's fun to do the cooking and, you know, all that kind of stuff and talk about my kids and my lifestyle and everything. But in the end, it really is, the underlying message is really like that, you know, people should think about becoming vegan or more plant-based in their life, and it'll change your life so much more for the better. It'll open up like so many interesting things that you can do with food, and you'll feel so much better about yourself, and you'll be healthier. And, you know, those are all the things that it did for me, and it's worked out beautifully, and I'm able to feed my children that way. My pregnancies were both vegan pregnancies, and I said in another video how I didn't gain that much weight, and it's true, I really didn't gain that much weight in my pregnancies. It was really like just the normal amount. It wasn't under and it wasn't over, but it was just like everything stayed really, you know, together, and I didn't have like a lot of extra on me, you know, that I didn't need. I didn't have a lot of bloating or anything like that. So that was that was another great thing about being vegan. And there are so many things, but once you get into the ethical part of it, you start realizing, wow, like, I'm really helping, you know, the planet here. I'm really helping like the animals here. I am really helping people realize that this is a lifestyle that they need to adopt, you know. So those are basically the three main things: just health, animals, and the ecology of the planet. And what is more important than those three things? I think those are the most important three things of all. So I want you guys to digest that. I know it's a lot coming at you at once, and I've got to get back to my children because they have been patiently waiting for me today, and they've made this time for me to do this vlog for you guys. So I got to just wish you guys a lot of love and peace, and I will see you on my next episode. I hope this helped. Bye now. Little back to school lunch pail. Well, he didn't get his